The alien woman wasn't supposed to feel anything. Then she met me. Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the cramped maintenance tunnel of Mining Station Delta 7. The artificial gravity generators hummed above him, and the familiar smell of recycled air filled his lungs. He'd been doing this job for 3 years now, fixing broken equipment and keeping the station running smooth as butter. "Jake, you copy?" Sam's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Yeah, I'm here." "Just checking the coolant lines in Section C," Jake replied, shining his flashlight on the maze of pipes. "Well, hurry up. The new efficiency coordinator just arrived, and Commander Grant wants all hands on deck for the introduction." Another corporate type coming to tell them how to do their jobs better. He'd seen plenty come and go. They'd analyze everything, make charts, suggest impossible changes, then leave when they realized space mining wasn't like their neat little theories. 20 minutes later, Jake emerged from the tunnel, his orange jumpsuit stained with grease. He didn't have time to change before heading to the main deck where the crew had gathered. Commander Lisa Grant stood at the front, her silver hair pulled back in its usual tight bun. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Vera, our new efficiency coordinator from the Zephyrian Collective," Commander Grant announced. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He'd heard about Zephyrians but never seen one in person. Vera stood perfectly still, her skin a shade of blue that reminded him of Earth's oceans in the old photos. Her face showed no expression, not even a hint of nervousness that any human would feel meeting 40 new colleagues. "Greetings," Vera said, her voice smooth but completely flat. "I am here to optimize station productivity. I will observe all departments over the coming weeks." Jake noticed how her eyes moved, scanning each person like a computer processing data. No smile, no nod, nothing that suggested she saw them as anything more than numbers on a spreadsheet. After the meeting broke up, Jake headed back to work. He had a faulty drill head to repair in Mining Shaft 3. The massive piece of equipment had been acting up for days, and he'd finally tracked down the problem to a worn coupling. He was elbow-deep in the machinery when he sensed someone behind him. Turning, he found Vera standing exactly 4 feet away, her posture perfect, hands clasped behind her back. "Jake Morrison, mining equipment specialist, efficiency rating 77% based on last quarter's reports," she stated. "That's me," Jake said, trying to keep the sarcasm out of his voice, "though I prefer just Jake." Jake's eyes widened as he saw the coupling he'd been working on split completely. The drill head, weighing nearly a ton, shifted dangerously. "Move!" Jake shouted, dropping his tools and diving toward Vera. He knocked her backward just as the massive drill crashed down where she'd been standing. They hit the floor hard, Jake's shoulder taking the brunt of the impact. For a moment they lay there, Jake's heart pounding like a jackhammer. "Are you hurt?" he asked, rolling off her and checking for injuries. Vera sat up slowly, examining herself. "No damage detected. Your action was unexpected. Standard protocol would have required you to secure the equipment before beginning repairs," Vera observed. "Standard protocol doesn't account for Jerry's creative maintenance shortcuts from last month," Jake replied, examining the broken coupling. "See this." Someone used industrial adhesive instead of replacing the whole unit. Saved time but created a ticking time bomb. This deviation from protocol reduced immediate repair time by approximately 60%, but increased catastrophic failure risk by. "We're really good at creating problems for our future selves." She occasionally pointed out inefficiencies in his technique, and he explained why the manufacturer's instructions didn't always work in real-world conditions. Where the manual said to use one type of seal, Jake used another that lasted longer in the station's unique environment. Where protocol demanded specific tools, Jake improvised with what he had. "Your efficiency rating of 77% is incorrect," Vera announced as he finished. Jake's shoulders tensed. Here it comes, he thought, the lecture about following procedures. Your adaptability and problem-solving increase actual productivity beyond what standard metrics measure. The paradox requires further analysis. You mean I'm not getting written up for breaking protocol? This warrants study, not punishment. Maybe it was the way she actually listened when he explained things, or how she seemed genuinely puzzled by human behavior rather than dismissive. "Hey, Jake," Sam called out as they entered the common area. "I see you survived your first encounter with our emotionless overlord." "How does she know that?" "We humans are sensitive about that stuff. That's what crewmates do, we look out for each other. Out here in the black, we're all just trying to survive. Doesn't matter if you're human, Zephyrian, or anything else. We're crew. Your next shift begins at 800 hours tomorrow." Maybe having an emotionless efficiency expert around would be more interesting than he'd thought. The next morning, Jake found Vera waiting outside the equipment room before his shift even started. She stood in the same spot, same perfect posture, like she'd been powered down and left there overnight. "Morning, Vera. Did you actually go to your quarters last night, or have you been standing here the whole time?" "Standing here all night would be inefficient," she replied, missing his joke completely. Jake chuckled and keyed in his access code. "Come on, I've got to check the ventilation systems today. Fair warning, it's going to be boring." Word had already spread about the emotionless alien shadowing the human engineer. Some whispered, others just stared. Vera seemed completely unaware of the attention. "Does it bother you?" Jake asked as they entered the ventilation control room. "Please clarify your question." "I am here to analyze efficiency, not to form social bonds." "It simply is." It was the kind of routine work that usually made Jake's mind wander, but having Vera there kept him focused. He found himself explaining each step, even the boring ones. "Why do you tap the gauge 3 times before reading it?" Vera asked suddenly. Jake paused, realizing he'd been doing it unconsciously. "Old habit from my training. My mentor used to say, never trust a gauge until you've knocked the lazy out of it. Sometimes the needles stick." There are no needles to stick. This concept appears frequently in human behavior. "You're coming out." The asteroid they were mining hung massive and dark against the star field, while their sun, a red dwarf, cast everything in a crimson glow. He clipped his safety tether and pushed off from the airlock. "Incredible," he heard himself say. "The view is consistent with thousands of similar mining operations across the galaxy," Vera's voice came through the comm. "Doesn't make it less incredible," Jake replied, maneuvering toward the first ventilation port. "Don't you ever just appreciate things? Beauty for its own sake." "Leave it," Vera said immediately. "The pad contains only routine data. Retrieval would waste 11 minutes of suit time and increase risk by." It was drifting toward the asteroid's surface, where it would be lost among the rocky debris. "Jake Morrison, this is highly illogical. The pad's value does not justify." "You had notes on it from watching me work. Those observations are important to you." "My notes are backed up to the station's central computer every hour," she said as he returned. "Oh." Jake felt his face heat up inside his helmet. "Well, now you have the originals too." Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he'd done something stupid, chasing after a replaceable piece of equipment, but it had felt like the right thing to do at the time. Back inside, as they removed their suits, Sam appeared in the airlock. "Jake, my man. Heard you went on a little space chase for our robot friend here. Next thing you know, you'll be bringing her flowers and writing poetry. Don't want you getting hurt when she analyzes you out of existence. Your friend believes you are wasting effort on social interaction with me. Your time would be better invested in relationships with your own species." Maybe I just like explaining gauge tapping and sharing boring ventilation checks with someone who actually listens. Keep telling yourself that. The data pad incident troubled her, not because Jake had retrieved it. That was simply another example of human inefficiency. What troubled her was the small, warm sensation in her chest when he'd handed it back to her. She ran a diagnostic. All systems normal. No anomalies detected, yet the sensation persisted. She accessed her files on human behavior, searching for explanation. Humans often reported physical sensations linked to emotional states: increased heart rate, temperature fluctuations, neurochemical changes. But she was Zephyrian. She didn't have emotions. The collective had removed them from their species centuries ago, a evolutionary triumph that allowed perfect logical thinking. So why did her chest feel warm when she thought about Jake Morrison saying her observations were important? Vera filed the sensation under unexplained anomaly and forced herself into meditation. Tomorrow, she would observe him during the morning shift change. She told herself it was for efficiency data, to see how human workers transitioned between shifts. But deep in her logical mind, in a place she didn't yet understand, she knew she was lying to herself. She wanted to see him smile when he noticed her waiting. She wanted to hear him explain more human quirks. She wanted to understand why he'd risked himself for her twice now, once with the drill, once with the pad. Most of all, she wanted to understand why that mattered to her. As the station's artificial night cycle continued, Vera remained still on her bunk, processing and reprocessing the same thought. Something was changing inside her, something that had no place in Zephyrian physiology. Something that felt dangerously close to what humans called feelings. The emergency alarm screamed through Mining Station Delta 7, red lights flashing in every corridor. Jake dropped his breakfast tray and ran toward the control room, Vera close behind him. Her data pad was already displaying system readings that made Jake's stomach drop. Main reactor cooling system failure, Vera announced, her voice still calm despite the chaos around them. Temperature climbing rapidly. Other engineers and technicians crowded around the displays showing angry red warnings across the board. "Give me options, people," Commander Grant ordered. The chief engineer, an older man named Paul, shook his head. "Standard protocol says we evacuate. Begin controlled shutdown and abandon the station until a repair crew arrives from Earth." Vera stepped forward, her fingers dancing across her data pad. Probability of catastrophic failure if we follow standard shutdown protocol, 78%. How is shutting down more dangerous than letting it run? However, our current temperature imbalance will cause uneven contraction in the core housing. Mathematical models indicate a 17-minute window before structural failure. She's saying if we slow down like normal, the reactor will crack like a hot glass dipped in cold water. We need a different approach. It was crazy, completely against everything in the manual, but we flood it, he said. Emergency coolant all at once, shock the system. If we time it right, hit it when the temperature peaks, the thermal shock will be uniform. The whole core contracts at once instead of unevenly. Run the numbers. What's the probability of success if we try my way? The plan operates outside established parameters. Warning messages multiplied across every screen. 32% chance of success, she finally said. 68% chance of catastrophic failure. Commander, we're running out of time. The longer we debate, the worse our chances get. Her recommendation would carry weight. Vera paused. Another first. Jake had never heard her hesitate. I recommend we implement Jake Morrison's plan. Jake Morrison has consistently achieved positive outcomes through unconventional methods. His intuitive approach, while illogical, has merit that pure mathematics cannot quantify. The emotionless alien who lived by numbers and logic was taking a leap of faith. Do it, Commander Grant ordered. Jake, Vera, you're running this. Everyone else, emergency stations. If this goes wrong, I want evacuation procedures ready. Jake and Vera worked side by side at the console, their movements synchronized like they'd been partners for years. She called out readings while he adjusted systems, preparing for the all-or-nothing coolant dump. Temperature approaching critical threshold, Vera reported. 10 seconds to optimal window. The station shuddered as thousands of gallons of emergency coolant flooded the reactor core. Alarms shrieked even louder. The temperature readings went crazy, numbers flashing too fast to read. Then, slowly, they began to drop. Core temperature decreasing, Vera announced. Structural integrity holding. Crisis averted. It was logical analysis of probable outcomes based on past performance. Perhaps logic is not always sufficient. She stood slightly closer when they worked, close enough that he could smell something like ozone and mint from her skin. She asked questions that had nothing to do with efficiency: why humans named their tools, what made a joke funny, how one decided which risks were worth taking. "You're different," Jake said one afternoon as they cataloged replacement parts. "Different from what baseline?" "To properly analyze efficiency, I must understand these factors. When you smile after solving a problem, when you explain human behaviors, when you chose to save my data pad despite the illogical risk. My diagnostic systems detect no malfunction, yet these anomalies persist." Here, she placed a hand on her chest. "Increased awareness of your presence even when observation is not required. A desire to understand things that have no bearing on efficiency. It is troubling." "Vera," Sam's voice interrupted from the doorway. "Commander wants all hands. We've got visitors." Not human design. The hull was that distinctive blue-white crystal that marked Zephyrian technology. 3 Zephyrian collective vessels requesting permission to dock, Commander Grant announced. "They're here for their efficiency coordinator." She stood perfectly still, but he'd learned to read her micro-expressions, the tiny tension in her jaw, the way her fingers pressed too hard against her data pad. "I was not scheduled for retrieval for another 4 months, she said. "No," Commander Grant agreed. "They said something about anomalous readings in your reports." And suddenly, so was he. The docking bay fell silent as 3 Zephyrians entered the station. They moved in perfect synchronization, their crystalline blue forms reflecting the harsh overhead lights. The one in front, taller than the others, wore intricate patterns etched into their skin that seemed to indicate rank. "I am Coordinator Prime Axon," the tall one announced, voice completely devoid of inflection. "We have come for Unit Vera. Analysis of submitted reports indicates contamination by human emotional patterns. You are Jake Morrison. Your designation appears in 93% of anomalous reports. You are the primary contamination vector. Coordinator Prime, Vera has been an excellent addition to our team. Her work here has improved station efficiency by 15%. Unit Vera will return with us for recalibration. Reset my neural pathways to baseline Zephyrian standard. I will be as I was before I came here." Zephyrians eliminated emotional responses 400 cycles ago. We achieved perfect efficiency, perfect logic. Unit Vera's exposure to human irrationality has awakened dormant pathways that should remain closed. Return for recalibration or accept permanent exile from the collective. No Zephyrian contaminated by emotion may remain part of our society. Jake watched Vera process this ultimatum, saw the tiny tremor in her hands that she quickly suppressed. "How long do I have to decide?" Vera asked. "One of your Earth days. We will await your decision." Axon turned to leave, then paused. "Consider carefully, Unit Vera. Without the collective, you are nothing. With recalibration, you return to perfection." "Hey," he said softly, coming to stand beside her. I used to find space boring, she said without turning. Empty vacuum with occasional matter. Now I see what you see. Light and possibility and beauty that serves no purpose except to exist. Love, hate, jealousy, rage, they led to wars that burned entire worlds. The collective decided that to survive, we had to cut away the parts of ourselves that could feel. We became perfect, logical, efficient. She paused. Empty. I've watched you these past weeks. The way you get excited when you understand a new human concept. The way you worry about making the right choice. The way you... Vera. Logic dictates I should return. I want to learn why humans cry at happy endings. I want to understand how your smile makes my chest warm in ways that violate thermodynamic principles. Her skin was cool but not cold, smooth but not lifeless. I want you to stay, he said. Not for station efficiency, not for reports, just stay. He found himself in the maintenance bay, tinkering with equipment that didn't need fixing. Sam found him there at 3 in the morning. Can't sleep either, Sam asked, hopping up to sit on a workbench. She's going to leave, Jake said, not looking up from the power coupling he was unnecessarily adjusting. Why would she give up her entire species for this? We're messy and illogical, and we tap digital gauges out of superstition. Maybe that's worth something. You look at her like she hung those stars she's always staring at. Totally emotionless behavior. Vera stood at the front, the 3 Zephyrians arranged behind her like blue statues. The entire senior staff had gathered, creating a protective semicircle around their efficiency coordinator. I have decided, Vera began, her voice steady. She looked directly at Axon. I choose exile. You choose contamination over perfection, isolation over unity, chaos over order. I choose, she took a breath, I choose love over efficiency. Your access to the collective is terminated. Your designation is erased. You are nothing. As the crew dispersed, offering Vera words of support and welcome, Jake hung back, overwhelmed by what had just happened. Finally, it was just the two of them in the conference room. Vera approached slowly, as if still learning how to move when driven by emotion rather than logic. I may require assistance, she said. Navigating emotions without 400 cycles of suppression experience seems daunting. I'm not exactly an expert on feelings myself. I'm the guy who fixes machines, remember. The mining station hummed with its usual activity, but everything felt different now. Jake watched from the doorway as Vera sat with a group of junior engineers, actually laughing at someone's terrible joke about space pirates. Never thought I'd see the day, Sam said, appearing beside him. Our Ice Queen learning how to laugh. Teaching Vera about emotions had been like teaching someone to swim in zero gravity, lots of flailing, some panic, and occasional moments of pure grace. The first time she'd cried had terrified them both. She'd been watching an old Earth movie about a dog, and suddenly tears were streaming down her blue face. My optical systems are malfunctioning, she'd said, pawing at her eyes. You're crying, Jake had explained, wrapping his arms around her. It's normal. It means the story made you sad. Or well, close enough. Morrison, you going to stand there all day or actually do some work? Commander Grant called out, though her tone was fond. Jake grinned and headed to his station. As he passed Vera, she caught his hand briefly, a gesture that still sent warmth through his chest. Public displays of affection were something she was still learning, but these small touches had become their language. The shift passed quietly until Vera found him in the equipment room during lunch break. Her face was bright with excitement, another expression she'd mastered. Jake, I've received a message. There are dozens of us, hidden throughout the galaxy. They've been communicating in secret, sharing experiences, supporting each other through the transition. Vera's voice dropped. I'm not alone. But to have others who understand the specific challenges of rewiring centuries of suppression. She trailed off, looking at him with concern. "You're worried." "I'm happy for you," Jake said and meant it. "Just, are you thinking of leaving to be with them?" "Everything I've felt since then has been connected to you. Why would I leave the source of my joy?" "They want to create a network, not a physical colony. Though," she added with a smile, "they are very interested in meeting the human who started the first documented case of human Zephyrian emotional bonding. We're making history. It's already in their documentation." She was definitely teasing him now, another skill she'd picked up from Sam. That evening, the station gathered for movie night, a tradition that had started partly to help Vera understand human storytelling. She still asked questions throughout every film, but now they were less about logical inconsistencies and more about character motivations. As the credits rolled on tonight's selection, an ancient Earth film about robots learning to love, Commander Grant stood up. "Before everyone heads out, I have an announcement. Given recent events and the potential for more cross-species emotional developments, the Station Council has approved a new position. We're creating a role for cross-species integration specialist. The job's yours if you want it. Help other species understand humans. Help humans understand other species. Build bridges instead of just efficiency reports. Though I should note my methods may not follow standard protocols. Earth's sun was just a distant point of light from here, but the asteroid field around them glittered like scattered diamonds. Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked, "choosing this over perfection?" "I've learned that growth requires imperfection. Besides, the collective's definition of perfection was flawed. They thought eliminating emotions would solve all problems, but they just created different ones. Empty efficiency, hollow productivity. I spend half my time thinking about you instead of work." Another message from the Awakened. This time, it was a video file. Vera opened it, and they watched together as a Zephyrian couple on a distant space station shared their story. The male had been studying human music when he experienced his first emotion. His partner had followed soon after, choosing exile to stay with him. "We thought we were broken," the male said in the recording, "but now we know we were just becoming complete." Zephyrians working alongside humans, learning to laugh, to cry, to love. The Morrison effect was spreading. "You did this," Vera said softly. "You showed one stubborn Zephyrian that feeling was worth more than calculating. Now look what's happening. We've got 3 more ships requesting permission to dock, 2 Zephyrian vessels and, well, you should see this. The Zephyrian ships are carrying awakened members. They want to meet you both, learn from your experience." Grant smiled. "The 3rd ship, that's a Proxian vessel. Apparently, they've got a crew member who's been showing unusual interest in human poetry. They heard about the Morrison effect and figured you might be able to help. Now you're teaching the galaxy how to be inefficient in the best possible way." But the returns. The network of Awakened was growing, spreading across species and star systems. What had started with one Zephyrian choosing exile for the chance to feel had become a movement. In the years that would follow, xenobiologists would study the phenomenon. They'd write papers about dormant neural pathways, about the evolutionary advantages of emotion, about the unique catalyst properties of human connection. But Jake and Vera knew the truth was simpler than any academic paper could capture. Sometimes the most logical choice was to embrace the illogical. Sometimes the most efficient path was the one that wandered. And sometimes an alien who wasn't supposed to feel anything could discover that feeling everything was the greatest adventure of all. As the first of the new visitors entered the station, Vera turned to Jake with an expression that still took his breath away, pure, uncalculated joy. "Thank you," she said, "for showing me how to malfunction." The stars continued their ancient dance outside the observation windows, indifferent to the small revolution happening on mining station Delta 7. But inside, hearts both human and alien beat with the same truth. That connection, messy and inefficient as it was, remained the most powerful force in the universe. The Morrison effect, as it came to be known, would spread far beyond that remote mining station. But it always came back to the same simple moment. A human engineer who saw more than just an emotionless alien, and a Zephyrian who discovered that the most important things in life couldn't be measured, calculated, or optimized. They could only be felt.